Welcome back, focused learners, to another edition of The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a concept that has absolutely taken over pop culture: manifesting. We're going to be looking at a fascinating and honestly deeply misunderstood cognitive error that's outlined in Thomas Alethea's comprehensive guide, 12 Steps to a Good Life. So let's dive right in, shall we? We are going to break down this whole myth of manifesting and uncover what is actually happening in our brains when we try to, simply wish our realities into existence. I mean, it's a wildly tempting thought, isn't it? Can you simply think your way to wealth, love, and success? Does the universe really operate like some sort of supernatural vending machine where you just punch in your desires, focus your thoughts really hard, and wait for your prize to drop into the tray? Well, today we're looking at the source material to understand exactly why this idea is so seductive, but also why relying on it is, unfortunately, fundamentally flawed. Popular books like The Secret and Think and Grow Rich have sold millions of copies, and they do it by promoting this very idea that the universe directly responds to your thoughts. But our source text points out something really interesting. It notes that we often turn to this manifesting mindset during times of deep uncertainty, helplessness, or emotional distress. Think about it. When life feels completely out of control, the idea that you can manifest a better reality just by thinking positive thoughts, it offers an incredibly comforting sense of hope and meaning. It's totally easy to see the allure there. So, Section 1, defining the cognitive error. What exactly is magical thinking? Well, as defined in our source material, magical thinking is the belief that unrelated events are causally connected, often through thoughts, desires, or rituals, even when there is absolutely no logical or empirical basis for that connection. Basically, this cognitive distortion completely tricks our brains. It makes us believe that simply visualizing success in our minds will automatically, almost supernaturally, manifest it out in the physical world. It is, at its core, a fundamental error in how we perceive cause and effect. Let's look at what this cognitive error actually sounds like in our daily lives. The author lists several really common phrases, and honestly, you have likely heard these or maybe even pinned them to a vision board yourself. Things like, if I want something badly enough, I can make it happen, or I can manifest my wishes through positive energy. How about like attracts like? The whole, if I think I am rich, I will become rich. Or even, if I love someone enough, they will love me in return. Now, while these statements might sound super motivating, the source material explicitly warns that they are classic textbook examples of magical thinking. They're promising something for nothing, relying on supernatural causality rather than actual tangible effort. Moving on to Section 2, the hidden dangers. Why manifesting can harm you. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, come on, what is the real harm in a little positive thinking? Well, here is the devastating cycle mapped out for us. It starts in step 1, usually with experiencing emotional distress or uncertainty. Then, in step 2, to cope with that distress, we seek control through manifesting or visualization rituals. But here is where the danger really kicks in at step 3. We actually start ignoring practical actions, real-world responsibilities, or healthy boundaries because we think our energy is doing all the heavy lifting. And finally, step 4. When the universe inevitably doesn't deliver the goods, the manifesting philosophy basically dictates that it's your fault. You're left feeling immense guilt, shame, and disillusionment because you think, I just didn't believe hard enough. The author hits the nail on the head with this quote directly from the text. The problem with magical thinking is that it disconnects you from reality. It promotes a false sense of control and discourages you from taking practical action. Because think about it, if you genuinely believe that positive thinking alone will fix your finances or heal your body, you are highly likely to ignore the actual, necessary steps that would improve your situation. It literally paralyzes you by replacing real action with passive wishing. Okay, Section 3, magic versus true spirituality. This is a crucial distinction. There is a massive, and I mean massive, nuance here. Magical thinking is all about external control, right? It claims you have direct supernatural power over material events, wealth, or even other people just by thinking about them. True spirituality, on the other hand, is much more grounded. It focuses on internal connection, character, and personal growth. As the author notes, true spirituality does not claim that your thoughts or prayers are going to suddenly change the fundamental laws of physics or act as some magic wish machine. You can be deeply spiritual and completely grounded in reality at the exact same time. So, this brings us to a pretty pivotal question. If we realize we've fallen into this trap of believing our thoughts alone dictate reality, and we want to avoid that paralyzing shame that comes when manifesting inevitably fails, how do we escape this box of magical thinking? Which brings us to Section 4, the solution: taking practical action. The ultimate antidote to the manifesting myth is, quite simply, to think like a scientist. First, you've got to ground your thinking in observable evidence and logic. Then, actively ask yourself, okay, what evidence actually supports this belief? Once you have a clear, honest picture of reality, set realistic goals and create tangible plans. And finally, step 4, take real-world steps towards change. By replacing magical thinking with a scientific, action-oriented mindset, you protect yourself from false hope and you begin making actual, measurable progress. Because ultimately, the core philosophy here is incredibly simple. You cannot bypass the laws of cause and effect in the real world. You just can't. Now, intention and focus, they are great for your motivation, absolutely, but they cannot replace the physical effort required to change your circumstances. True success requires actively participating in reality, doing the hard work, and letting go of the illusion that you can just mentally control the universe. Which leaves us with one final, provocative question to consider today. Will you keep wishing for the universe to act as a vending machine for your desires? Or are you ready to step out of the illusion and take the practical, real-world steps to change reality yourself? Thank you so much for joining me for this edition of The Explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.